"I want to open our marriage, Mark." It all started with a shocking request, one that would shatter everything we'd built. She turned to me and asked to sleep with other men. My world collapsed in that moment, but I didn't show it. Instead, I agreed, knowing I would make her pay. I withdrew all my love, every emotion, and became a shadow in our home. Now she's left with nothing but the ruins of her own choices. I stood by and watched as the woman I once adored unraveled, and all I had to do was let her. Louise, the start. "I'm serious, Louise," my best friend Janet said. "He's a man, plain and simple. When you bring up your idea, he's just going to think about all the freedom it gives him." "I don't feel good about him being with other people, Janet." "I never said he would be with anyone else, Louise. He's 40 years old and his best days are behind him. Do you really think he wants to hang out with younger people every weekend? He'll stay home with the kids while you get a chance to enjoy your life. Are you sure it won't cause problems?" I glanced at my friends and coworkers around the table. "Louise, James really wants to spend time with you," Annie said. "This just means you can be with him without feeling bad or like you're ignoring your husband." "I promise, it will be worth it," Marie chimed in. "Your husband will be busy with work, the kids, and other plans. Make sure to keep your bond strong, and he'll be happy in life." I have to say, the more we talked about it, the better it sounded. I had been married to my husband, Mark, for 18 years. We had 2 kids and had bought a house. Now, it felt like our true home. We also had 2 cars parked in the driveway and took a trip abroad every year. We both worked hard, lived well, and were mostly happy. But recently, as I neared 40, I started to feel like something was off. I wanted a little excitement in my life. Don't misunderstand me. My husband loved me very much. He was still a romantic. We went out on a date at least every 2 weeks. We didn't spend as much time together as we used to in our 20s. Yet, he always knew how to make me feel special, and he was still a good-looking man. He worked hard and succeeded in almost everything he did. I knew I was lucky to have him. Still, I felt a bit bored and thought there had to be more to life. That's when Janet began to share some ideas. When the women at my job found out about my situation, they also joined in the conversation about all the options I had. They mentioned that we live in a modern world where relationships are changing. Couples now happily discover new ways to connect. I wasn't sure my husband would agree, but that didn't stop my friends from encouraging me. That night, I finally felt ready to talk to my husband. I had all the reasons I needed to change his mind. If necessary, I could do something nice for him, something I didn't do often, and I was sure he would be happy to help me. I smiled at my friends, and they smiled back because they understood my plan. "I'll speak to him tomorrow night after dinner," I said to them. "It'll be okay," Janet told me. "He's going to be really grateful." I wasn't comfortable with my friends hanging out with my husband, but if it meant I could make new friends too, I would get used to it. I didn't want my husband to feel left out while I was with someone else. New friends? I liked that idea, especially the idea of more than one. Before I met my husband, I had 3 relationships, and none lasted more than a few months. I didn't go for short-term flings. As soon as I met Mark, I knew he was the one, and I didn't think about anyone else. That was true until a couple of years ago when younger coworkers joined our company. They were not shy about showing their interest in me. I started to see that I still had my own charm, and young men were interested in spending time with me. Knowing that you still have a certain charm can really boost your self-confidence. When I got home that night, my husband didn't know about the talk I had earlier. I have to say, the thought of being with someone younger had made me feel more alive, so I can guess my husband noticed the excitement I had when I was with that person earlier. For the first time, I started thinking about one of the charming young men at work. I imagined how nice it would be to spend happy times together. When he held me in his arms, just like he often did, he didn't know what was coming. I stayed quiet, feeling anxious about what might happen next. I shed a few worried tears, hoping I wouldn't become too emotional when I talked to him. The next day was Sunday. On Saturdays, the kids played sports. Our daughter played netball, and our son played rugby. We always aimed to do something fun as a family on Sundays. It wasn't something we had to push them into. As teenagers, they liked being with their friends more than with us. My husband seemed to understand their need for space a bit better. Still, I really valued the time we had together as a family. We finally went out for lunch, but it was kind of disappointing because both kids were more focused on their phones than on talking to us. "Don't worry, dear. The only thing that distracts me here is you," my husband said with a smile. I felt a wave of guilt because I knew I would be asking him for something important in just a few hours. Dinner was the same as always, my husband and I making small talk and trying to get the kids to join in. Mark had a rule that no one could use their phones during dinner. The kids had grumbled at first, but I noticed they liked their dad caring about their lives. He was always asking questions and sharing advice with them. While I cooked, he took care of cleaning up, with one of the kids helping him every evening. "All right, kids, you can go now." "I need to talk to your dad about something not meant for kids," I said to them. "Are you having another baby?" our daughter asked, sounding excited. "No, it's nothing like that." I looked at my husband, who looked curious. "It's just something important." He clearly didn't know what was happening, but he still grabbed a bottle of juice from the fridge, poured us both a glass, and then sat down across from me. He looked at me, waiting for me to speak, but he stayed quiet. Although my husband was often the life of the party, always cheerful and outgoing, he also had a quieter, deeper side. He liked to think about life and had many sayings he lived by, one being, "Stay quiet, and people will think you're wise. Speak up, and they might not." I took a moment to sip my drink, gathering my thoughts before I spoke up. "Honey, are you happy?" "What do you mean happy about?" he asked gently. "Happy with everything? With our life together?" "Absolutely," he replied with a warm smile. "What do I have to complain about? I have a caring wife, 2 great kids, a nice house, and a cozy home. We live well, our jobs are going well, we have good friends and family who support us. I believe we are doing better than many others." "I'm happy you see life as so good, dear. I truly mean it. But I don't feel the same way. Something feels off. I'm feeling a bit restless, to be honest." Mark stayed quiet for a whole minute, deep in thought. "You're feeling restless?" After a moment, he asked, "With our marriage?" "I love you, dear. Please don't question that, but I need a bit more than what we have right now. I need some excitement." "Am I not doing enough as your husband? I mean, I know we've been married for—" "It's not about what you are or aren't doing, Mark. This is about my feelings and what I need." I took another sip of my drink, preparing myself. "I've been talking to friends and thinking things over. Regular relationships are—" "Don't give me those modern ideas your friends have been talking about, Louise," Mark said firmly. "Just say what you want." I felt like he already knew what I was about to say. I finished my drink. "I want to take our relationship to the next level, Mark. I'd like us to think about being more open with others." For the first time I could remember, he looked at me with a mix of surprise and worry. It felt like there was more than just surprise in his eyes. The kind gaze I was used to suddenly changed. His fingers squeezed the glass he was holding as he thought. "Can you say that again?" he asked softly. "I just want to make sure I understand, Louise. I want us to try new things together and see where that takes us. Just think about it, dear. Instead of sticking with the same person you've been with for almost 20 years, you could meet new people to share some fun experiences." He stayed quiet, his look intense and almost unsettling. His eyes hardly blinked as he thought deeply. I didn't often see my husband like this. I knew he could get upset when pushed. I had heard him on the phone during tough work talks, and he had played in more than one heated game in his youth. "Absolutely not," he said firmly. "I don't know what you've been reading or who you've been listening to, but I can guess who has been putting these ideas in your head. We are not changing our promise to each other. We made vows, Louise. There is one line I really pay attention to. Do you remember what it is?" I thought about our promises and knew the one he meant. "Forsaking all others," I said quietly. "That's right. I take those promises seriously. I have since the day we stood together in front of everyone, with our friends and family seeing our commitment. Even if I notice someone else sometimes, I would never think about doing anything about it. Now I'm here, wondering how much you care about the promises we made. My friends had warned me about all the points he might bring up." "Sweetheart." He almost growled at my usual name for him. Mark, I still respect our promises, but we can talk about new ways to understand each other as time goes on. We can still love and care for each other. We can stay married. I still love you very much and want to be with you. But I need something new. Something more than what we have now. I knew those last words would hit him hard. Everyone has pride, and knowing that I felt incomplete would be tough for him to accept. I saw him tense up, his jaw tight, and his eyes showed his frustration. He took a moment to calm down, but I could tell I was testing his patience. Still, I thought he would listen to me in the end. He got up and walked over to the back door. "Where are you going?" I asked. "I'm going out to think," he answered. "My partner just told me she's not happy and wants to look at other choices. I don't really want to be near her right now." His voice trailed off as he left, and it hurt to know he saw me that way. I didn't see him for the rest of the night, and I figured he didn't come back to bed. When I woke up the next morning, I noticed his side of the bed was still empty. I got up, took a quick shower in our bathroom, and got dressed for work. I saw our 2 kids in the kitchen eating breakfast, but I couldn't find Mark anywhere. "Where's your dad?" I asked. "He left for work early," our daughter said. "He said he might be home late," our son added. It was the first time in our marriage that he had left without saying goodbye. It felt a little disappointing. As soon as I got to work, I sent him a message to tell him I loved him. I didn't talk about what we had discussed or what I had shared with him the night before. I kept my messages straightforward and sent him similar notes whenever I could. I tried to call him during lunch, but it went to voicemail. I left a quick message, telling him that my feelings for him remained strong. He would always be my partner, and I saw us getting older together while watching our children begin their own lives. I hoped he would hear it and feel better. When I got home later that day, my husband's truck was not in the driveway. Sometimes he got home before I did, but often I was already cooking dinner when he arrived. I felt relieved when he came in, a bit later than usual, but at least he was back. I had worried about getting a call saying he was at a bar again. He didn't say hello when he walked in and quickly went out to the backyard. My kids didn't seem to notice anything was wrong. They sent our son to bring him when dinner was ready. He talked to the kids like everything was fine, but I saw that he hardly looked at me. After dinner, he told the kids to go to their rooms to do their homework. Then he said he needed to talk to me. This time, he didn't offer me a drink as he sat down across from me. I could clearly see that he was worried. I could tell he was still thinking about what we talked about the night before. "I understand you won't drop this, Louise," he said after a bit of silence. "I know some of your friends have shaped your views. I've looked into open relationships and other ideas that many people seem to support. It's disappointing to see why a lot of men are unsure about committing these days. It feels like there's no way to make everyone happy." Here's a simpler version of the provided text. If I say no, it seems like you might find happiness with someone else. Either way, I end up losing. He held up his hands in surrender. "Okay, you win. You get what you want. But we need to set some rules first." I felt excited, already thinking about others who might like me. No other men at home? I wouldn't want that anyway. Our marriage would always be honored. We need to be careful with our feelings. Well, I figured I would just wait for a proper health check. I wasn't going to let that stop me from having fun with them, and I was still looking after myself too. He didn't want to see or bump into any of them? That seemed simple enough. If I had just spent time with someone we couldn't be too close for now, I guess that meant we would have less time together for a little while. I didn't really understand what he meant by what he said next. "From now on, I can't take care of your feelings, Louise. Do you see what I'm saying?" My mind was full of thoughts, so I didn't fully get what he meant. He was still my husband. He still cared about me. He was just being nice by giving me some space. I knew this moment wouldn't last forever. I would go out and enjoy myself for a year or two, and then I'd stop, and things would go back to how they used to be. He got up when he was finished. The anger had faded. Instead, he looked distant, almost upset. But I knew my husband well. I could see he was in pain, and I realized I was the cause. Still, I thought about what my friends had said. They told me it was time to think about my own needs for a change. After all, my husband was an adult. Sure, he felt sad for now, but he would be okay soon. I wasn't really shocked that he didn't join me in bed that night. I almost went downstairs to tell him to move forward, but while I was alone in the bedroom, I decided to download some apps. I found a few recent photos, created a new profile, mentioned that I was married but looking to try new things, and then just relaxed, waiting for the messages to start coming in. After that, I called Janet. "So how did it go?" she asked with excitement. He said, "Yes, Janet, but I don't think he feels good about it." The way he looked at me. "It's just his pride hurting because you'll be having fun soon. Trust me, Louise. There are many interesting people in the world today, or maybe I'm just lucky. I know James from work really wants to spend time with me. I'm going to tell him tomorrow that I'll be free soon. Have you ever thought about trying something new?" "Not really. Mark would never want anyone else in our lives. Just like I wouldn't either. Maybe you should try new things. Make a list of things you've always wanted to do and start crossing them off. Louise, trust me on this. You've been in the same routine for almost 20 years. It's time to get out, have some fun, and really enjoy life." I felt myself smile. For so many years, I had just been a wife, a mother, and a busy worker. Now it was time to be Louise again. Just Louise. The atmosphere at home was tense for the rest of the week. I'm pretty sure the kids noticed that my husband was hardly speaking to me, but if they did, they didn't mention it. I tried my best to keep things calm. He came back to our bedroom, but there was no warmth or closeness between us. He was kind enough to say goodnight, but there was no hug or warmth, and certainly no closeness. On Friday morning, I told him I was going out with my friends that night. He just made a noise, but I knew he wouldn't say he was against it. He gave me a look I was getting used to, grabbed his bag, and walked out without saying anything else. I'd already packed a bag in case we ended up having a big fight. I didn't ask the kids if they noticed their dad leaving angrily. I just gave them a kiss goodbye and told them I would come home late, maybe that night or the next morning. When I got to work, my coworkers were really excited. When I showed them my change of clothes, they got even more thrilled. I took a picture and sent it to Janet. She replied that I was going to have a very interesting night. I spent the day joking around and having fun with the 3 young men, showing them that I was open to new friendships. "Are you serious?" James asked when I told him we'd go out for drinks that evening. "Your husband really said it was okay?" "Let's not talk about him good-looking. The only thing that matters is that when we finish work today, I'll change my clothes and my friends and I will go to a bar nearby. If you come by, I might be looking for some company tonight," I said, moving a bit closer and enjoying our chat. I could see he was interested. He seemed really focused on me. "And if you do things right, you could have some fun." "What bar are you talking about?" he asked with a confident tone. I smiled at that. I liked when someone was sure of themselves. He was young, and I could tell he had a certain charm. I told him where I would be, and he smiled, saying he would meet me there. After lunch, a coworker came over to my desk. "I saw you with James earlier," she whispered. "Are you really planning to get close to him so soon?" "Why not?" I replied. "My husband is okay with this, so I want to make the most of it." "Are you on Tinder?" she asked. I leaned back in my chair and laughed. "Oh, wow. I got a lot of attention just one day after putting my profile up, but it's hard to tell who's truly interested. Believe me, there are many young men who like older women. Just choose the ones who are kind, healthy, and have good personalities. They usually know how to make a good impression. My last partner could keep me entertained all night. My husband just isn't that exciting, bless him." "How does he manage things?" She shrugged. "We don't really discuss it. He doesn't ask what I do, and I don't ask about him. But I know he spends most nights at home with the kids." "Do you think that's fair?" She smiled. "Whoever said an open relationship is fair? The truth is, he agreed to it, just like your husband did. If they can't go out and meet others, that's their choice. I bet your husband had a lot of thoughts about what he could explore. He's going to realize that it's not as simple as he believes." I wasn't so sure about that. I didn't think he would even look for someone else. He had made his feelings about being serious pretty clear, which made his choice here seem odd. I tried not to dwell on that and spent the rest of the day concentrating on my tasks while texting Janet a lot. When the clock struck 5 p.m., I hurried to the bathroom to get ready. The dress I picked showed more than I usually wear. I put on more makeup than normal and did my hair the best I could. I chose a pair of eye-catching heels to show I was ready for the night. At the last minute, I decided to go for something bolder. I wanted to make a strong impression when we first met. Just thinking about our meeting made me feel excited. I looked at my phone one last time, seeing the picture of my husband and kids. Then, I switched to a simple image and went downstairs. Janet and the girls were there waiting for me. Before I could say hello, someone put a shot glass in my hand, followed by a glass of wine. In no time, we were with a group of young men. Most of them were with someone else, and I was the only one left who was either single or open to dating. James walked in, wearing a snug t-shirt and jeans that showed off his fit body. His eyes brightened when he saw me. In just 10 minutes, we were wrapped up in excitement, exchanging friendly looks and light touches. We found a booth and started talking, but it was obvious we were thinking about more than just chatting. Every time we got up to dance, we moved with energy and joy. I could see how he reacted to me, and I felt happy to have his attention. "I have a room at a hotel close by if you'd like to go," I finally said to him. "I want to be honest, James. I'm married, but I'm hoping to have some fun with someone different. What do you think?" He asked which hotel, and then he guided me out of the place as my friends cheered us on. He seemed really excited as we checked into the hotel, and there was a sense of excitement in the air. As soon as we entered the room, we felt a strong connection, curious about how the night would unfold. Once I had everything ready, I smiled at the moment we were sharing. Kneeling down, I realized I was about to do something I hadn't done in many years. James wasn't my husband. He was simply a handsome young man with a pleasant personality. I was focused on enjoying the moment, which helped me feel at ease. He was very kind with his words about how everything was going. He made sure he looked nice and smelled good. I liked the time we shared together, playfully teasing him until I could tell he was excited. He kindly let me know when things were getting intense, but I think he was taken aback by how much I enjoyed it, making sure everything went well in the end. "That was fun," I said with a smile. "Now I'm ready for more." "Are you sure you don't want to?" "Nope, I don't need it, James. I've been looking forward to tonight all day." He may have been young, but he really knew how to make the moment special. When we finally met, I smiled because it was the first time in almost 20 years that I was with someone new. It felt like what Janet and the others had described. I held the back of his head and kissed him gently. "I don't want anything too serious. I just want to enjoy this time with you, James." He seemed happy to hear that. So, for the next few hours, that's what we focused on. It was close to midnight when I finally said we should stop for the night. I felt happy and very pleased. Luckily, James understood what was going on. We tidied up, got dressed, and I checked out of the hotel. The front desk clerk gave me a look that suggested she knew something, but I didn't mind. When I got home about an hour later, I walked in normally since I didn't feel guilty. I noticed the bedroom was empty, so I started looking for Mark because I hadn't seen him on the couch. I found him in his office, surprised to see that he had a single bed there. I gently shook him awake, and he opened his eyes to meet mine. I felt a chill from how blank his expression was. "Go to bed, Louise," he said, then turned away from me and pretended I wasn't there. "Are you coming to bed?" I asked. "I'm already in bed. I told you the rules, Louise. Do you think I want to share a bed with you after what happened tonight?" "Fine, then," I replied. I heard him scoff, but he didn't say anything more. I went back to my room, changed into my usual pajamas, and climbed into bed. I stayed awake for a long time, missing him next to me. If he wanted to keep his space and sleep by himself, that was up to him. If things kept going like this, I might not come back home. At first, I only went out on Friday and Saturday nights. I tried to keep my relationship with my husband the same, but I noticed that he hardly ever slept in the same bed with me anymore. The kids noticed something was off. When I talked to Mark about it, he looked at me with a hard stare and said I should tell them what I asked him to do. "You said yes," I shot back. "I only said yes because I felt trapped," he answered quickly. "It was either agree or let you do things on your own. But one thing I won't allow is a divorce. You're not taking my kids away from me. I would never do that to you." It's hard to believe that, Louise. Since you made that request, I can see what is important to you. Right now, my main focus is on making sure our kids are not affected by what is happening. They notice things. They are not unaware. They understand something is not right. His voice surprised me with its harshness. I could tell he was angry, but it felt like too much. I wanted to say more, but I was worried about making things worse. The distance between us only grew. In many ways, our marriage felt like just a title. I couldn't remember when he last hugged or kissed me. As for closeness, that had disappeared since the time I spoke up. I never knew if he missed it or not, and I didn't feel brave enough to ask. Did I miss it? I have to say I did. I longed for the connection with my husband, for the feeling of being close to him after we spent time together. Still, I wasn't ready to stop what I was doing. James was someone I met often. There was another young man in the office. I went on a new date almost every weekend. Some went well right away, while others took longer to click. Things shifted when Janet and the other girls suggested we get together after work. What started as Friday and Saturday nights turned into meeting up 1 or 2 nights during the week and at least one night on the weekend. Some nights, I didn't even make it back home. Not always with someone else. Sometimes I would stay at Janet's or a friend's house if I was too tired to go home safely. I began to keep some clothes at work or at Janet's because it saved time. After about 6 months, there were weeks when I barely went home more than once or twice. I felt like I was enjoying life, but I didn't realize how much it was hurting my marriage and my family. Mark, the beginning, I'll be straight with you from the beginning. The night my wife asked me for that was when my feelings for her began to slip away. Some might wonder how I could change my heart for someone I had loved for 20 years, but it happened quite easily, to tell the truth. It was about the feeling of being let down and not being treated well. With her few words, she broke everything our marriage meant. She disregarded the promises we made to each other. To me, it felt like she was just looking for comfort away from our relationship. I stepped outside to calm down as I felt myself getting really angry. I knew I had to push my feelings aside and handle the situation in a calm and clear way. She disagreed with everything I said, and it was clear that her friends had a strong impact on her. I understood right away who had been talking to her about this. Along with the anger and sadness, I felt let down that my wife might have believed them. I realized I had to speak to someone. One person came to mind. I went to my shed, took out my phone, and called her. "Hi, Mark." "Hi, Emily." She was quiet for a moment before saying, "All right, something's not right, Mark. What's going on?" "We've been friends for 35 years, so don't think you can trick me." Everything spilled out. I didn't cry. That would come later. Right then, I was filled with anger and frustration. The opposite of love isn't hate. It's not caring at all. I felt so many strong emotions in that moment because she had just taken some time to break down my trust. I can't remember exactly what I said. I have a feeling it won't be easy. "Are you sitting down, Mark?" "No." "Please sit, Mark. I need to tell you something. It won't be like what I did with Adam. That was a different situation. You need to handle this one differently. It will be tough, but it's the best advice I can give." "Go ahead, Emily. What should I do?" Part of me thinks I should just walk away, but then I would leave the kids, and if she chooses her own path, who knows what might happen to them. I could try to get custody, but many men struggle with that. I don't want to just be a part-time dad. Co-parenting isn't an option for me. Here's what you do, Mark. Stay married on paper, but let go of everything else. The closeness is over. Keep your feelings to yourself. You aren't there for her anymore. She shouldn't rely on you for comfort. And you really don't want to be near her right now, do you? The thought of being close to my wife after everything that's happened makes me feel sick. I can't go back to that. Right. So keep your distance from her except for the money part. Take care of the house. Focus on yourself and your kids. Do what I did. Join a gym. It's great for both your body and your mind. I could probably lose a bit of weight and tone up some areas. Exactly. Keep yourself busy with other activities. Get yourself a hobby or two. Reach out to friends you haven't spoken to in a while. And most importantly, pay attention to the kids. Show them that you are a parent who really cares. Children can sense when things are different. If she goes through with this, I can promise you how it will turn out. It will begin gently, but soon she will be so caught up in her desires that she may forget what's real. Have you noticed this before? Mark, I want to be straightforward with you. She might start spending time with different people, but ultimately, she may end up forming a strong connection with someone special. Then she will have to choose. Stay with her family, even if it's just a title, or leave you and the kids behind. Great, I said softly. A part of me thinks you should go right away, but I get that you want to be with your kids in your home. So, just do what I told you. Go Gray Rock. What does that mean? It's a way to deal with people who try to control others. It's obvious that Louise has taken control of this situation for her own benefit. The main idea of the Gray Rock method is to act as if you don't care about her at all. Make sure that any time you talk to her is unexciting and uninteresting. Don't share anything personal with her. This can be hard, and you might find it challenging at times, but try your best to keep your feelings to yourself and keep conversations brief. Will this help? It probably will, since I think her wanting space comes from not really being interested in you or your family. Given how you're feeling right now, you might not want to connect with her emotionally. You don't have to share anything if you don't want to. It's best to talk only about the kids, as if you're already working together as co-parents. I let out a long breath, and she spoke softly. I'm here for you, Mark. I always have been and always will be. Thanks, Em. Things are hard right now. It's always difficult when a relationship ends. I've seen other men face the same problems, and they both ended up getting divorced. It's important to think about your kids and yourself. Things will get better. Do you think you can forgive her? No. We'll eventually get a divorce. I can wait until our youngest turns 18 if I have to. We'll stay in the same house, but right now we're just living like roommates. That's a good way to look at it. Just don't act too quickly. I won't, but I will do what I need to keep myself safe. There's nothing wrong with that, Mark. Where will you sleep tonight? Not in our bed, that's for sure. I'll visit you soon, Mark. You'll need friends for what lies ahead. Thanks, Em. One more thing, Mark. It might be hard to hear, but you should take care of yourself. You're doing well in life, you're healthy, and you're a great dad. You have so many good things going for you, so don't forget to look after yourself, too. Maybe you should try dating. I'm not so sure. Just think about it, Mark. You deserve to feel happy, too. It was hard to keep my cool, and I lost my temper with Louise more than once. I felt bad afterward each time, but in the end she was getting what she wanted, so why would she care? The first night she stayed out with someone else felt like it would break me. Then she had the nerve to come into my office and invite me to her room. I almost let out everything I was thinking and feeling about her. As she walked back to her room from my office, I understood that any love I had for her was gone after that night. I knew she was choosing a different way in life. I would always care for her as the mother of our kids, but the love I once had for her had completely faded away. I had braced myself for what was coming. Listening to a lot of Emily's advice, I shifted my attention to myself and the kids. I started going to the gym regularly. I took my lunch breaks longer than usual, trying to avoid times that were too early or too late. To kick things off, I hired a personal trainer for a few weeks. They helped me set up a plan for both exercise and eating. As Louise began to be away more often, I took on the task of cooking for the kids. To my surprise, I found out that I was actually pretty good at it. I enjoyed making dinner with my daughter. She loved to help me most evenings. As the weekends came, Louise started to attend more activities. I noticed I couldn't be in two places at once. My son and daughter played their sports at the same time. That's when I asked my younger sister for help. I knew I had to tell her what was happening. She really let me have it for putting up with the situation, but I explained that I was doing it for my kids, not just putting up with it. After listening to me, she seemed to understand. Then she finally said, "You should just end it and be with Emily." "What do you mean?" She looked at me as if I should already know. "Really? She's the one you should have married." Before I could respond, she raised her hand. Yes, I've heard all about your friendship and how you don't want to mess it up. But look at where that has led you. You've got a tricky situation with your wife. Do you even know where she is right now?" "I'd rather not know," I said quietly. "That's one of the rules." "When was the last time you felt close to someone?" I just shrugged, and she shook her head in disappointment. "Are you feeling okay?" "I'd rather not discuss it." "Mark, you should go out and meet someone new. Spend a nice evening with a kind person." "That's what Emily said." My sister chuckled, and then I asked, "Do you know anyone?" She laughed and teased me a bit. "Come on, at least 3 of my friends still think my older brother is quite charming." She gave my arm a gentle squeeze. "All that time at the gym is paying off. Do you have a 6-pack yet?" I'm feeling better and healthier than I have in a long time. And when I'm working out, are you thinking about her or all those other guys? Would it be bad if I said I think about her sometimes? As long as you don't bother her. When did you last talk? Last week when she came over for dinner. The only thing we talk about is the kids. She hardly seems to pay attention to anything else. She was on her phone the whole time. When she was in the shower, I took a quick look. She had 3 dating apps, and there were messages from many men. I didn't know who they were or how many she was talking to. I thought for a moment and said, honestly, I don't feel much about it because she's like a wife only in name now. That's really disrespectful, my sister said quietly. I agreed, but I didn't think it was worth saying more. It felt like a waste of energy. I had other things to think about these days. Besides my sister, I depended on Emily a lot. The kids really looked up to Auntie Emily. As their mother started to pull away, they enjoyed having Emily around even more, especially my daughter. Emily never slept over, but we spent many evenings on the couch together, often sharing a few drinks. Sitting close together led to some sweet moments, but I chose not to take it any further. Not yet, anyway. Dad, why are you allowing this? My daughter finally asked during dinner one evening. My wife still came home a few times a week for dinner, and she still slept in our bed, likely not realizing I had taken most of my things out. Yeah, some kids at school teased us about it, but we kind of agreed with what they said about Mom, my son said. Looks like we aren't the only kids whose parents are divorced or have different kinds of relationships. I sighed and looked at Emily. She looked at me with a serious expression before I turned to my kids. Did your mother ever explain what was happening? Not really. She just said things might be different soon, my daughter answered. Dad, we're not little kids anymore. We learn a lot from the internet. Just tell us what's happening, my son said. We won't judge you. We're just glad you're here. I can't remember the last time Mom said 3 words to me. My daughter wiped her tears, and I could tell she really missed having a good female role model around. Emily was up and comforting her in no time. I won't share all the details, kids. You don't need to worry about that. But your mother made me rethink our relationship. The only reason I said yes was that if I didn't, I would lose the house and all of you. Do you still care about her? My daughter asked. No, I said firmly. My feelings for her mostly disappeared the night she asked me to do that. It really ended when she came home late the first time after going out with someone else. Does she even care about us anymore? My daughter asked, trying hard to stay calm. Emily hugged her even tighter and gave me a fierce look. Of course she cares about you, I said, but it felt like I wasn't being honest. Nice way of showing it, Dad, my son said with a sarcastic tone. I sighed, knowing I was partly to blame. Look, kids, all I can do is keep being the dad I've always been. I'm trying hard not to let what she's doing affect us. I will always be here for you, and you can count on that. My sister is helping, too. And I'm not leaving, Emily said, if you want me to stay. When my daughter hugged her tightly, I saw Emily look at me, and her eyes were shining. She had wanted kids with her first husband, but it never worked out. We like you, Emily, my son said with a smile. And we see that you make Dad happy. He's smiling again. My son made me feel shy. Emily smiled at me, her warm smile showing how she felt. A few months went by fast, and our lives changed a lot. I added a new room to the house and made it my own special space. It was a bedroom, office, and living area all in one. The kids loved it because we could all play games together there. When I worked from home, my kids would sit on the couch and keep me company, which made me really happy. When Emily came over, we had a quiet place to ourselves while the kids were in the other room. I didn't see my wife much. I often stayed away from her when she was home. We only talked through messages. I had no idea what she was up to, and honestly, I didn't really mind. A part of her paycheck still went into our shared account, so all the bills were taken care of. I gradually began to take her out of different areas of my life. I made sure she wouldn't get any benefits from things like life insurance. My children would be the only ones to gain from that. The same went for my will, since I planned to be divorced by the time I passed away. Emily spent the night, but we didn't go beyond friendship. She would come over on Friday evening and stay until it was time for work on Monday morning. We even slept in the same bed, but she knew I wasn't ready yet. I still wore my wedding ring. Even though our marriage felt like a joke, I still considered myself married and a husband. Luckily, Emily wasn't pushing me. She loved to cuddle, always showing me her care and promising she would wait for me as long as I needed. "Honestly, she's missing out," she said softly one night. "She doesn't realize what she has lost. And you still need to go out and see the world, too. I'm a patient woman, Mark." The next moment we shared was the most genuine I could recall. I hadn't had a moment like that with my wife in months. When we finally let go of each other, I found myself thinking about what the future might bring for all of us. Louise, I have to say that I enjoyed some freedom once I was able to explore on my own. I had been a loyal wife and mother, giving almost 20 years of my life to my family. I decided it was time to enjoy life a bit. I felt I had earned it after giving up so much. I know you might think my husband had his own chances to do the same. He was in a situation where he had choices. What he chose to do was his business. The important part is that he agreed to it. If he had wanted to say no, he could have. Even if we had a disagreement, I would have understood his reasons and accepted his decision in the end. I might have felt a bit frustrated, but deep down, I knew I would never break his trust. Still, I admit I got a bit carried away. There were young men at work who seemed very interested in me. Then there were my dating experiences. Not all of them went well, but many people wanted to spend a cozy evening together. Sometimes I would hang out with Janet or one of my other friends, and we would enjoy our time together during our outings. Time flew by as I balanced my new experiences. Going out on weekends turned into outings a night or two each week. I still cared for my family. I made sure to pay my part of the bills and kept in touch with the kids. I didn't hear from my husband much, and when I was at home, he often seemed far away. When I had a peaceful moment to think, I noticed how long it had been since we really talked or connected. I wanted to change that, but then I got an invitation to go out for the evening. Going home to spend the weekend with the kids, and maybe even my husband, made me see how much things had changed and how much I had missed over the past few months as I started this new part of my life. I knew my husband was unhappy, so I mostly stayed in the living room, kitchen, and bedroom. Whenever I tried to talk to him, it felt like a waste of time. The only thing he would discuss was our kids. When it came to our marriage, he would just give me a look that told me everything. Still, I missed him. I missed our kids, too. Part of me wanted to put a pause on everything, but another part was really enjoying the thrill of new friendships. "Hi!" I shouted, stepping inside the house. "I'm back!" The lights were on, but nobody answered me. I tossed my bag on the chair and headed to the kitchen. There I found my husband and our 2 kids having dinner. To my surprise, Emily was with them. I knew her well. She had been friends with my husband since they were children. As I walked toward him, I noticed the way he looked at me. I could tell he wasn't happy, and I had hoped his feelings might have changed, but it was clear they hadn't. He looked at me as if I were just a bother. "What are you doing here?" our daughter finally asked. Her tone said a lot. "What do you mean?" "I'm here to be with my family." She laughed at that, looking at me with a smirk as if she had a secret. Our son glanced at me with a hint of disrespect before he turned to Emily. "Is there a spot for me?" I asked my husband. "No," he answered. That was all he said, and his voice felt cold. That's when I started noticing the changes. As I walked back into the living room, it seemed less like a home and more like a museum. The kitchen had a fresh coat of paint, and all the pictures that used to hang on the walls were gone. As I looked more closely, I saw there were no pictures of my husband and me. There were a few of me with the kids, but our wedding photo, which used to be front and center, was missing. I went to our bedroom and could tell right away that my husband hadn't slept there in a while. When I went back to the kitchen, I realized there was something really big that had changed. Caught up in everything happening in my life, I hadn't really paid attention. As I walked up to the big doors, I pushed them open and found a huge living space. It had a cozy sleeping area, some nice couches, and a big spot for entertainment. "What is this?" I asked. "This is my part of the house," Mark answered. His voice was calm, just stating the truth. "Why did you make this? Why didn't you tell me about it?" He looked at me, staying quiet, but his eyes said a lot. Looking at my kids, I saw they were both grinning. The only one who stayed quiet and didn't show anything was Emily. But I noticed she was holding his hand under the table. "Why are you here, Mom?" our daughter finally asked. "Shouldn't you be with one of your friends?" I turned to my husband in surprise. "They know? You told our kids about our situation?" They asked where you were after all this time. I answered them. I'm not going to lie to our kids to cover for you. It was your choice. You haven't been home for a few months, our son said. I can't believe you're even here. Why did you come? Our daughter asked again. We were enjoying dinner until you showed up and made things strange. I looked at my husband. Are you going to say something to our kids, Mark? No, he answered, not looking at me. He turned to Emily, who had stayed quiet but was clearly paying attention. Our kids are both teenagers, and they have their own thoughts. Do you know how old they are? You forgot my birthday, our daughter said. And you missed my game where my team won the big final, our son chimed in. They had just finished their dinner when Emily quietly got up. She suggested we go to another room so I could talk to my husband. I think I stood there for a moment, my mouth moving without words, while Mark got up and went to grab a drink from the fridge. Leaning back against the counter, he took a drink from the bottle for a moment before finally asking, Why are you here, Louise? I wanted to spend time with my family this weekend, my kids and my husband. He looked away for a few seconds before nodding. Good luck with that. I have plans this evening and this weekend. As for the kids, you can always talk to them. I was hoping... He stopped and turned to look at me. Remember our agreements, Louise? I don't know what you're up to these days, and honestly, I don't really care anymore. I stopped caring the moment you made me agree to this. But if you want to talk to our kids, go ahead. Just don't expect too much. After just a few minutes with both of them, I could tell they didn't want to spend time with me that night or over the weekend. Feeling defeated, I went back to the bedroom and felt lonely in my own home. Fine, I said quietly. If that's how it's going to be, I might as well just go somewhere else. See you later. Probably not, our daughter said with a hint of sarcasm. I took my handbag and hurried out of the house to my car. I slammed the door and hit the steering wheel a few times with my hands, feeling very foolish. Tears started to fall as I blamed my husband for everything. But then I recalled the look in his eyes the night I made my request, and those same eyes the night I came home from my first date. But it was the look in his eyes that night that frightened me. I felt like there was nothing left for me. No love, but no hate either. Just total indifference. I was almost like a stranger to him now. Sinking back into my seat, I could only think about whether I had messed up everything that was important to me. Was he right all along? Had my friends really misled me? Maybe their husbands would accept this kind of deal. But Mark had always been a proud man. Then I thought about our agreement, and everything clicked into place, which only made me cry more. He had completely shut himself off from me. He said we were married only in name, and I started to doubt if we could ever return to how we were before. I realized I couldn't visit any of my friends because I would probably blame them for my broken marriage. After driving around with no direction for a bit, I found myself parking at a bar I was familiar with. As I walked in, I found a spot to sit and ordered a drink. Pretty soon, I had a couple of drinks in front of me as I tried hard not to cry. Is this seat free? A gentle voice said. I looked up to see a man smiling at me. No, it's free, I answered, wiping my nose a few times. But I might not be much fun to talk to. Maybe that's just what you need, he replied with a friendly smile. It's not nice to see someone alone, looking sad and upset. He sat down, got himself a drink, and asked if he could get one for me too. When my drink arrived, he raised his glass to toast. Do you want to talk? I'm here to listen. I'm not sure my story is very interesting. How bad can it be? The more I think about it while I sit here, the more I feel like I might have messed things up for good. He reached out his hand. I'm Tom. Who are you? I asked. He held out his hand and I shook it. I'm Louise. Now we're not strangers anymore. I'm a friend, and it seems like a lovely woman like you shouldn't be sad all alone in a bar. Something must be bothering you. Do you really want to hear about it? I questioned. I'm not in a hurry to leave. I took a deep breath and looked at him closely. I thought he was very good-looking. He was different from anyone else I had met because he was older, maybe in his 50s. I shared some of my story with him. He listened carefully, and except for a question or two, he mostly just nodded to show he understood. When I wrapped up my story, he got us another drink. I guess the question is if you want to keep things like this, Louise. Honestly, I think I might as well. I'm not sure my husband will ever feel good about our relationship again. He seems to be mad at me all the time. But he did agree to it. He hasn't talked to you about it since, and he's just letting his anger grow. How can things get better if he won't talk to you? I just want my husband to care about me again, I said softly. These other men don't really care about me. It's just some company and something to pass the time. I'm not looking for anything more. After a few more drinks, I understood that I couldn't drive. Tom asked where I would sleep that night. I thought about saying I'd just get a hotel since I didn't really want to go home. Instead, he asked if it would be all right for me to come home with him. I live alone and have extra rooms, he said. I'm not looking for anything else, Louise. I agreed right away. Tom called a taxi while I went to my car to grab my overnight bag that I always brought with me. He lived on the other side of the city from my family. Once we arrived, he took me inside and showed me around, including the room where I would stay that night. He offered me a drink, and I accepted it. We both enjoyed a strong glass while sitting close together on the couch. You are a lovely person, Louise, he said gently, placing his hand on my leg. Have you ever thought about finding one or two people who can truly make you feel valued instead of having many companions? I don't want to fall for anyone else, I answered quietly. You know you can care for more than one person at a time, he said. I looked into his eyes and smiled. He was quite attractive. The best part was that he was nothing like my husband. I won't tell you how to live your life, Louise. You don't really know me. The next morning, I put on the extra clothes I had and found him in the kitchen. He welcomed me with a friendly wave, and we shared breakfast at the counter while chatting and learning more about each other. What I didn't expect was to find out he had a situation like mine. I always try to be truthful with everyone I meet. I take off my wedding ring when my wife isn't here because it can make things awkward. But I always let a woman know where I stand before we hang out. My wife lives in another place, and we only see each other once a month. Do you have kids? They're all grown up and studying on their own. They stay with my wife most of the time. Did you have many partners? In the beginning of our open relationship, I spent time with anyone who seemed interested in me. Now that I'm older and more thoughtful, I want a real connection. It's important to me to know the person I'm with. He took a sip of his coffee and then asked, What are you doing this weekend, Louise? I don't have any plans right now. Would you like to spend it with me? He leaned closer and took my hand. You're a lovely woman, Louise, and I have to admit I sat down next to you last night for 2 reasons. First, I saw you looking sad and wanted to help you feel better. Second, I wanted to learn more about you because I found you really interesting, and I hoped you might like me too. I smiled as I held his hand gently. I think you might just be the right person at the right time, Tom. I'd really enjoy spending the weekend with you. I couldn't help but think Tom was quite wealthy. The house he lived in seemed very expensive, and his fancy car was something my husband and I would never be able to buy, even if both of us worked. After spending the day together, the restaurant he took me to was one of the best in the city, and it was clear he wanted to impress me. When we went dancing afterward, I think he expected me to lean in a little closer. He smiled as he looked into my eyes. We danced together until late at night, and then he asked if I was ready to go. He took my hand and held it as we got into the back of a taxi. I moved closer to him, and he placed his arm around me. When we got home after midnight, he offered me a drink while I took off my shoes and sat on the couch. We enjoyed our drinks and chatted softly until I leaned over to give him a quick kiss. We set our drinks aside before he kissed me. I smiled as I enjoyed the closeness we felt during our time together. Eventually, we found ourselves in his bedroom. For the first time, I felt a real connection that was special. He was kind and caring, and I felt a strong feeling of warmth and affection. I was happy to return his kindness, enjoying the warmth of our time together. I almost cried when he hugged me tight. His eyes showed more than just want. He really seemed to care about me. We held each other closely for what seemed like a long time, feeling our connection grow stronger as we enjoyed being together. As I snuggled up to him after we relaxed, his fingers gently touched my arm. I felt I had to ask, So, are we starting a relationship, Tom? I'm not dating anyone else right now, Louise. All I can say is that we both have other commitments. What I do know is that I really like you a lot and would love to spend more time together in the future. Thank you for helping me feel better. During breakfast on Sunday, Tom shared a thought with me. He said my marriage with my husband might be tough. He pointed out where I might have misunderstood things. He and his wife chose to live separately for a while, which helped them understand their relationship better. I surprised my husband with a request and encouraged him strongly to agree. He believed that no matter how tough it was, I should try my best to fix the problems with our kids. Our children had a hard time understanding things at first, especially when I changed my work situation. This meant I could only visit them sometimes. I made that decision when they were old enough to handle it. It seems like your kids already know what's going on, so now it's your turn to understand how everything fits together. He held my hand and gave me a kind smile. Try to repair things with Mark. He sounds like a nice person. He's a great person, almost as great as your wife. I care deeply for my wife, and I hope to retire with her soon. The day I go home will be the day all this is behind us. What does she feel about it? She misses having her husband around. But I also know she has 2 other partners when I'm not around. When I am with her, I get all her attention. I do the same when she comes to see me here? Sounds like you have everything figured out. It's not without some problems, but we work hard to avoid jealousy or hard feelings. I spent most of the day with him before he took me back to the bar where my car was parked. When he held me close, I couldn't help but let out a little sigh. Maybe I handled this whole situation differently than I planned. Casual meetings can be fun for a while, but they often leave you feeling empty. Now, I had met a nice, caring man who truly wanted to help me. He even gave me good advice about my marriage. Just keep talking to your husband. That's the most important thing, he said. But remember, your kids come first. Let's work on fixing our relationship. I'll do my best. When can I see you again? He touched my cheek softly and leaned closer for a tender moment. Whenever you'd like. I'm not with anyone else, and I don't intend to be. I just need you to promise me that you won't feel bad if I do meet someone new. I might find someone else, too. He laughed, and I realized how much I enjoyed hearing it. Now you're on the right track, Louise. You've enjoyed yourself, and that's perfectly okay. But I think you've come to see that you might want something deeper, maybe a bit more serious. Perhaps partners who really care about the start of that word. I hugged him tightly and leaned my head on his chest. I'll call you soon, I said. I can't wait to hear from you, Louise. I watched him drive off before getting into my car. Taking a deep breath, I drove home slowly, thinking about what I should tell my family. On my way, I took a break to gather my stuff from friends' homes. Janet was curious about what I was doing. I explained that I planned to go out less often during the week. I felt I'd had enough of casual outings. If I was going to start a new chapter in my life, I wanted it to focus on real connections with people. Janet seemed like she wanted to fight, but I gave her a hug. I wanted her to know that she was still my best friend and that I cared about her. Good luck, she said, as I stood by the front door. It was late in the afternoon when I got home. I took my bags upstairs and put away my clothes before going to the kitchen. I heard sounds coming from the other side of the house, from where my husband's room was. I stopped for a moment as that thought popped into my mind. My husband had done everything he could to keep us apart, except for filing for divorce. Our son Matthew was playing on a big gaming console, and the new TV was huge, hanging on the wall. Our daughter Zara sat next to him, focused on her studies and not paying much attention to the noise from the games. As I looked through the windows, I saw my husband on a new deck, with his arm around a woman, and she didn't look like Emily. I cleared my throat and Matthew turned to see me, surprised to find me there. He bumped into his sister, who was about to shout at him, but then he pointed towards me. I walked over to my kids and knelt down between them, taking one of their hands in each of mine. Before I knew it, tears started rolling down my cheeks. Please believe that I'm your mother and I love you, I said softly. I know you see everything, and I'm sorry for not being there. I promise to do better from now on. My son has always been closer to me than my daughter. When I saw his lips start to quiver, I hugged him tightly. I don't understand, Mom, he said at last. Why are you gone so much? Hearing that broke my heart. I realized I should have taken a moment to pause and think about what he needed right then. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I didn't mean to upset you. I just miss you, that's all. I'll do my best to improve. Are you really seeing other men? Let's not discuss that, Matthew. It's something for your father and me to handle. I leaned back and kissed each of his cheeks, and then playfully messed up his hair. I know there are things we need to work on together, Matthew. I promise I'll do my best to catch every home game next season if I can. I can send you a schedule of our games when it's ready. I turned to my daughter, who didn't seem as sure. She was older than her brother and had her own strong opinions about things. She had always been her dad's favorite. "You've really hurt Daddy's feelings, Mom," she said sharply. "What kind of wife?" "You're too young to know." She got up, the books on her lap tumbling down, and shot me an angry look. "I'm not too young to know, Mom," she yelled, her voice full of frustration. "I'm 16, almost 17. Do you think I don't see things online? What happens between your father and me is our business. But your decisions are affecting me. And my dad!" She suddenly started crying and ran away. I sighed, feeling heavy with sadness. I didn't notice when Mark walked in until I felt him standing over me. I looked up into his eyes and saw the usual coldness there. "Are you staying for dinner, Louise?" he asked. I nodded and replied, "I'll try to come around more often, Mark." "Is this your wife, Mark?" a friendly voice asked. I turned to see a beautiful woman coming towards him. What bothered me right away was that she looked like she was only about 25. When she smiled at me, pretending to be innocent, I was shocked. "I'm Cindy," she said. "What happened to no visitors, Mark?" Louise asked. "She's just here for the afternoon to hang out with me and will leave after dinner. Not that you have any say in what I do, Louise. We agreed to be in an open relationship, remember? I'm just enjoying my freedom to spend time with wonderful women." I had no response to that, but I felt annoyed and a bit jealous as I saw my husband and daughter cooking together. Cindy sipped her drink, smiling as she looked on, and I could tell from her eyes that she was interested in my husband. My daughter had always been close to her father, but their connection seemed stronger in recent months. He was nice enough to make sure I had a seat at the table. I ended up at the far end next to my son. He was still a bit angry with me, but at least he talked to me. Mark didn't speak to me at all. He just chatted with Cindy and Zara. It felt like I wasn't even there. But he hadn't lied. About an hour after dinner, he was taking Cindy to her car. I watched from the window as they shared a quiet moment together. Her hand gently touched his cheek, and her eyes held warmth. He waved goodbye and stayed there until her car drove away before coming back inside. "Mark," I said gently. He paused and turned to me. There was no anger this time, and he seemed more relaxed than usual. He didn't smile, but I could tell my husband was feeling comfortable. "Can we talk, Mark?" He let out a deep sigh and rubbed his face. "About what, Louise?" he asked, sounding tired in a way I hadn't expected. "About us, Mark. I'm still your wife. You're still my husband. I still love you. I never wanted any of this to happen." I could see his fists clenching, and I worried he might get angry again. After a moment, he walked over to an armchair and sat down. "You wanted things to be different, Louise. I agreed to what you wanted. You agreed to what I asked. When was the last time we even slept in the same room? I won't share my room with my wife when she's been with other people. We're not close, either emotionally or physically. Remember what I said. I won't offer emotional support or physical comfort. If that is what you want, look for someone else. This is what you wished for, Louise. I never wanted my wife to go out and be with others. I was happy in our marriage. HTTP code 500 from API, 500 internal server error, 500 internal server error jinx. There are many sayings that come to mind about all of this. One that fits is, be careful what you wish for. You got what you wanted from me, but you didn't think about how it would impact everyone in our family. I was watching TV in the living room when my son walked in. He seemed a bit hesitant, so I smiled and patted the spot next to me. I couldn't help but smile at how tall he had become, and I leaned against him when he finally sat down. "Do you miss your mom?" "Yeah." I realized I wouldn't be able to spend time with my husband that night. Matthew went to bed early. After I turned off the lights in the house, I walked to the double doors that led to Mark's section. One door was closed, while the other was slightly open. I saw him on the couch with our daughter nestled against him. He had his arm around her, and I could see her shaking, clearly upset. I understood that I was the cause of her tears. If I walked in, I knew things would get uncomfortable and things would be said that couldn't be taken back. With a heavy sigh, I softly shut the door and walked toward my room. It didn't feel right to call it our room anymore. I wasn't sure if my husband would ever come back to it. Mark and I listened to Emily and thought that if my wife could go out and enjoy herself, then I could do the same. What I quickly noticed was that many young women were interested in a 40-year-old man who had a good job, owned his own house and car, raised a couple of nice kids, and, in my opinion, was a bit attractive. My friends and co-workers were quick to introduce me to women they knew. I didn't want to date anyone too young, but then there was Cindy. She was 25 and such a kind person that I couldn't refuse giving her a chance. Charlotte was 28 years old and focused on her career. She wanted love and companionship, but only when it suited her. Melissa, in her early 30s, was a lawyer at a company we often worked with. She was full of energy and did things for me that my wife had either stopped doing or had never done. Then there was Jessica. She was just 21 and the daughter of a woman I worked with. Both knew about my situation, and Jessica had been hurt by a few disappointing relationships. After I explained everything, Jessica was glad to be one of my friends. "I do like charming older guys," she told me on our first outing. You're not going to call me Daddy, are you?" "Well, my dad is a good-looking man too, but no, I don't feel that way about him." She moved closer. "Unless you want me to call you something silly later," she said with a playful smile, making me almost spit out my drink. "Oh no," she said, her emotions coming through clearly. "Mark, you need to be by my side." Turning her gently, I leaned in to kiss her softly. Her eyes sparkled with happiness with each sweet gesture. I could sense that our time together was getting more special. We knew each other well enough to understand what the other felt, and I could hear her wanting to be close. She knew what she wanted for the future. She made it clear that she wasn't ready to have children at this time. Later on, as we sat together and shared a moment, she leaned against me, drawing little shapes on my chest with her fingers. "Mark, can I share something with you?" "Of course. I think your wife is making some strange choices." "You're not the first person to mention that. What surprises me is how well this situation is working out." "Sure. Here's the rewritten text in simpler and clearer language. I mean, just between you and me. I feel a little jealous when I know you're with someone else, but I knew this was not forever. I just wanted to share good times with someone special. We all know about Emily and what she's planning. I heard she has changed her schedule." "Yeah, she says I now have a year to enjoy life." "Do you think she is unsure about making a serious promise?" "All the time. The truth is we have a strong connection. We've cared for each other for almost our whole lives, but it's always been a bit different. So, you need to show her that you can be more than just friends and that your hearts really connect. How can someone so young be so smart?" She lightly tapped my shoulder with a smile. "All your girlfriends share their thoughts, which is good. We all think Emily is wonderful and worth love. We believe you two are meant for each other." Jessica sighed and hugged me a bit tighter. "Don't feel bad about it. Sometimes a woman just needs to show that she wants you there with her." We woke up in the morning, got dressed, and went down to the lobby for breakfast. After eating, we went back to our room to pack our things before I drove us home. After I dropped her off at her house, I got out and walked her to the door. We shared a nice moment before she went inside, and she turned back with a big smile. I knew everyone at work would want to hear about this the next day. When I got home later after picking up a few things from the store, I found Matthew sitting in his usual place in front of the TV, talking loudly into his headphones. Zara was at the table, busy with her schoolwork like she always was. I kissed the top of her head, and she turned so I could give her a kiss on the cheek. "Did you two do okay the past 2 nights?" "I'm 16, Dad. I can take care of myself." "And what about your brother?" "He hasn't bothered me too much, if that's what you're asking." "Have you heard from your mom?" "Not since Wednesday night." "Okay. What do you want to eat for dinner?" The 3 of us had dinner together. Matthew finished his meal quickly and then went back to his game. Zara glanced at me with a smile, shaking her head as we tidied up the kitchen. I took a drink from the fridge and went outside to the deck to soak up the last bit of sunshine. Zara came out too and sat down next to me. "Dad, are you happy?" she asked. It depends on what you mean and why I'd be happy." Am I happy about you? I teased her by tickling her, making her laugh for a moment. Yes, I am. I love my children and would do anything for them, as you probably know. Am I happy with my situation right now? To be honest, no. I feel like I'm just getting by. Am I happy with my personal life aside from your mother? I won't lie, yes, I'm pretty happy for now. I think Mom has a boyfriend, like someone she sees often. That's nice for her. You really don't care, do you? I don't, dear. We both have our own lives now. The only things that connect us now are you two children, a few of our money matters, this house, and a piece of paper that says we are married. I sighed quietly and continued. You two should never have been caught up in this. That was my plan, but I knew people would notice if your mother kept going missing, and I didn't want to lie for her. I tried hard not to do the same thing, but after some time it felt like she was showing off and hinting that she could act freely while I felt stuck. I think you've met some great women, Dad. I have. I have 4 nice friends I can hang out with. They all know I'm married, but it's understood that things are open. They know this won't last forever. They all know that I don't plan to fall in love and leave my marriage for anyone. Is it because of Emily? Zara asked quietly. Daddy, do you love her? She hardly ever called me Daddy anymore, only when she wanted to make a strong point. I pulled her a bit closer, resting her head on my shoulder, and thought about her question. Emily is my best friend, Zara. She has been with me longer than anyone else. I have helped her through many tough times in her relationships. I stood up for her against someone who was hurting her and made sure she was all right. That sounds like love, Daddy. Your mother didn't appreciate the love I had for her with the choice she made. Emily has never done that. We have never been in a romantic relationship. We've had many times of support and trust. But there is one person in this world I knew I could count on more than anyone else, and that is her. Your mother understood this too. I know Emily told her that if she hurt me, she would be the one to help me heal, and that she might really want to be with me. But you're enjoying your time together right now? Emily knows all about what I'm doing. She even supports me. That's what friends do, Dad. But I'll be really happy when you marry her. Wait, what? Has she said anything? No, but you should be happy. And Mom hasn't made you happy since she asked for that. Are you going to get a divorce soon? No, I don't think that's needed. She's living her life and I'm living mine. When you kids are grown and out of the house, I'll make sure we get divorced quickly. Emily came over on Tuesday night, and it seemed like my daughter was trying to set me up with someone the whole time. My son didn't seem to notice much, but I gave my daughter several knowing looks during dinner and afterwards. When they finally went to bed, Emily cuddled up next to me, my arm around her, and we enjoyed a quiet moment together. That peaceful time didn't last long before she started to laugh softly. Your daughter was pretty obvious tonight, Mark, she said quietly. Yeah, but we've been having a lot of conversations lately. She really wants us to get married. Emily settled closer to me, making sure my arm stayed snug around her. What do you think about that idea? I have to get a divorce first. Do you love me, Mark? The only ones I love more are my kids. What about Louise? I don't have feelings for her anymore, Emily. So, besides the kids, you care about me the most? There was a time when I loved Louise more. That's true. I went out with her. I married her. You helped us build our life together and made our wedding special. We had children, raised them, and created a home. And now here we are. Have you ever wondered? She paused, and I guessed what she would ask. When I was married, I didn't think about it. I didn't let myself, and you were my best friend. I was happy with my family, but now I think about it often. The one thing I really appreciate about Louise is that I am a father with 2 wonderful kids. Emily stayed with me that night. We didn't cross any boundaries because I don't think either of us was ready. I was wearing a t-shirt and shorts, and she was dressed almost the same. When she curled up next to me, I could feel her warm breath against my skin as she rested her arm over my chest. She turned my head gently, and I felt a light touch of her lips on mine. Mark? Yeah, Em. Are you enjoying this? Yeah, I am. That's great. Want to tell some stories? Really? I'll just close my eyes and picture it's me. You know, I'll end things with everyone else. She placed a soft hand on my cheek. No, she said softly. I can see how happy you are dating right now. You really like all four of them. Just let me know when you're ready. Are you sure? I've waited 35 years, Mark. What's a few more months? As I turned to face her, I noticed her eyes shining in the dark. I pulled her a bit closer, feeling her warmth against me. I leaned in and kissed her gently, and she kissed me back right away. We had a sweet moment, just enjoying being together. Her hand gently rested on my chest. I'm sorry, I said softly. Don't apologize, Mark. That kiss was really nice. Do you want to keep kissing? I would really like to, but if we keep going, I might want us to be even closer, and I'm not ready for that right now. She cuddled up to me. Because when we take that next step, Mark, it means we're committed to each other. I won't jump into that unless I know you're all in. I would do that right now. No, you can't separate from her yet. Keep this situation going. At least you're with your kids all the time. That's better than being a father who only sees them sometimes, right? And what Louise is doing doesn't really bother you right now, right? Not at all. I don't know what she's up to. Honestly, I've mostly had the house to myself with my kids. My daughter was happy to have Emily join us for breakfast the next morning. My son didn't seem too concerned about things. I noticed he talked to his mother much more than his sister did. He told me that his mother had said sorry and made some promises a few months ago. Since then, she had been visiting the house more often. He also told me that his mother would often invite him out for dinner, a forever invitation she had for her daughter that was never accepted. As I walked Emily to her car in the morning, she turned to me and we shared another sweet kiss, just like the one from the night before. When we finally broke the kiss, she put her hands on my chest. I'd like to stay the night again, she said gently. I feel it's all right since we're taking our time. That's important, isn't it? It is, and I've always believed that. After giving her another kiss, she hugged me tightly, and her warmth made me smile. We both laughed quietly. Are you really sure about this, Em? I mean, about waiting? Yes, I'm sure, and please don't ask me again. She kissed my cheek and softly said, I really want to hear more about those girls you're meeting. I'll try my hardest to make the stories fun. Louise came back home on Wednesday. I noticed she seemed excited about us all having dinner together as a family for the first time in months. Unfortunately for her, I already had plans with Cindy. To my surprise, she stood up and asked me to stay as I headed to the door. I turned around and gave her a calm look. Please stay, Mark. We haven't had... Not my fault, Louise. But we can. I have plans tonight. The kids knew that. They didn't expect me to join them for dinner tonight. They understood that I might not be home and would see them tomorrow after school. Can't you please stay? Just for me? I looked at her but then turned and walked out the door. I knew Cindy was waiting for me at a nearby cafe where she had prepared for our time together. I wasn't going to share that with my wife, of course. She didn't need to know, and it wasn't her problem. Louise. He doesn't like me, I whispered as I cuddled close to Tom, feeling the warmth of his body. Now when I was at home, I slept alone. I really enjoyed these moments with Tom, which happened about 3 times a week. I hadn't found anyone else to share my time with, and I wasn't seeing other people much at all. I think it's done, Tom. Do you know what he's up to? I couldn't help but let out a little scoff. My daughter loves to tell me about all the women he's dating. She even told me that she wishes he would divorce me and marry Emily. His best friend? Yes. And what about the other women? They have come to our house because Mark enjoys cooking for them. He seems to have gotten really good at it. He used to make meals for me, but our daughter, I guess she isn't very pleased with you? Honestly, I feel she enjoys seeing our marriage fall apart. She thinks it's all my fault. Is she a daddy's girl? I paused for a moment to gather my thoughts. I hurt him badly, Tom. He's closed himself off from me, but our daughter seems to understand how he feels. What will you do now? To be honest, I think my daughter has a point. I'm not sure how I can fix our marriage because Mark still won't talk to me. The only times we communicate are about the kids or our money. I often send him messages to tell him how much I miss and love him, but he never replies. I don't even try to call him because I know he won't answer. Tom helped me feel a little better by holding me close. He looked into my eyes, and I really appreciated his comforting presence. He was not like Mark, and though I had liked some of my past experiences, they started to feel empty. If I couldn't have my husband back, then I was grateful to spend time with Tom. There was also another man, Daniel, who showed interest in me. He was about the same age as my husband and was single, but he wasn't sure about dating a married woman, even though I told him my marriage was likely over. I really enjoyed being with Tom because he always made me feel valued. Our bond wasn't just physical. He took me on fun outings, and we would spend weekends together focusing on different things. We could sit and chat for hours about anything that popped into our heads. We tried not to talk about our other partners too much, but they were a big part of our lives and sometimes came up in our chats. A few months later, we were lying back in bed, feeling comfortable after spending a nice time together. He pulled me closer and said, "I have a question for you." "Sure, Tom, what is it?" "How would you feel about joining me on some trips? I travel a lot for work in the States and Europe. Having a friend would make things less lonely sometimes." "What about your wife?" He laughed softly. "She's too busy for things like this. I want you to come with me, Louise." I looked into his eyes and asked, "Really?" "I enjoy being with you, and I'd love for you to join me while I'm away." "How long would I be gone?" "Maybe a couple of weeks to a month. It depends on the work I have to do. I should let the kids know at least." "Of course. I understand that my request might change how much time you can spend with them, but your daughter is now 17 and your son is 15. How was her birthday?" It was really uncomfortable. Both families probably know what's going on now. I felt like she didn't want me there, but I think Mark wanted me to come. Maybe it's a sign that deep down, there's still some care left. He knows my bond with our daughter isn't strong, but he knows our son still cares about me. I talk to him nearly every day, and I try to call him every night when I'm not at home. "When do you need to know?" I asked. "As soon as you can. I'm flying to the States on Thursday." On Monday, as I came home, there was no one else around. Mark was making dinner with Zara, and they both looked at me when I walked in. "Are you here for dinner?" Mark asked. "I am. Is that all right?" "Of course. This is still your home, Louise." I felt very emotional and wanted to cry. It was probably the kindest thing he'd said to me since I made that request. Matthew saw me from the couch in his father's room. He walked over and hugged me. I almost gasped because he was still getting taller. He would soon be as tall as his dad, but he wasn't very broad yet. For the first time I could remember, the four of us sat down for dinner together. There wasn't much talking, but I couldn't help smiling as I looked at my husband. I would still call him that until the day we separated, and a part of me still hoped we could fix our relationship. After dinner, Mark brought out dessert. It was just ice cream with chocolate sauce, but it made everyone at the table feel comfortable. I knew my next words would change that. "Mark, I know you might not want to hear about my plans, but Tom has asked me for something that means I won't be around for a few weeks to a month. If it impacts our kids, I want to know Louise. He's a businessman, and he wants me to join him on his trips for work. His wife lives far away and isn't interested in going, so he's asked if I want to go with him. This means I won't be home as often as I would like, but..." "It's okay, Mom," Matthew replied. "Where are you going?" He talked about trips to the United States and Europe. Zara didn't say anything and kept her expression neutral. I thought she didn't care much about it. Then I turned to Mark. He was looking at me, but I couldn't tell what he was thinking until he asked a question that surprised me. "Do you love him?" "I love you, Mark," I said quietly. "No matter what, I'm your wife and you're my husband." "I didn't ask that, Louise. I asked, do you love him?" I'm not sure. I just like being with him." I looked away for a bit before turning back to him. "Do you care about anyone you're with?" He stared at me for a moment before giving me a little smile. Then he stood up to gather our bowls and utensils. Zara got up too to help her dad clean up. Understanding that he wouldn't reply to me and that our talk was done, I went to the living room. I felt a bit better when Matthew came to sit with me. Later that night, while I was in bed, the bedroom door opened. A warm figure wrapped around me, and it took me a moment to see that it wasn't my husband. "I'm sorry, Mom," he said softly. I turned to him and hugged him tightly, feeling tears come to my eyes. I knew my son didn't expect me to be so sad, but he gently rubbed my back and told me he loved me, no matter what. That made me feel a bit better as I leaned against him. "Thank you, dear," I said quietly. I made sure to be home the next 2 nights before I left with Tom on our first trip together. Mark and Zara tried their best to be polite, but mostly acted as if I wasn't there when we weren't all in the same room. Matthew, on the other hand, was very caring and seemed to know that I was feeling a bit lonely. I could tell he wasn't angry with his dad or sister and that he understood the situation. I worked hard to help him through everything. "Dad always says we should keep our connection with you," he said. Hearing that made me smile. He might not care about me, but he knew I would always love our kids. I had already arranged to work from home while I was away, so I packed my things on Thursday morning, ready for Tom to take me from the house. Mark had already left for work by the time I went downstairs. Only the kids were at the table, having breakfast before going to university and school. Zara barely spoke to me, which I expected, so I tried not to feel upset about it. As she was getting ready to leave, I stood up and asked if I could get a hug from my daughter. It seemed like my voice made her feel a little better. She wrapped her arms around me for a moment. "I really love you, Zara," I said softly. "You're my first daughter." She pulled away and avoided my gaze, saying she hoped I would enjoy myself before quickly heading outside. I was the last one to go. Matthew gave me a big hug and asked me to take lots of photos if I saw anything interesting before he stepped out the door. Tom came to get me a little while later. For the next few months, I was with Tom more than I thought I would be. We went to different places in North and South America, explored parts of Asia, and spent a lot of time in Europe. While he worked, he made sure we did some sightseeing together, and he always covered most of the costs. I was often introduced as his companion. I didn't know if the people we were meeting knew he was married, and I didn't ask. I realized I was starting to have feelings for him. He was very sweet and giving, and the time we spent together felt warm and special. When your friend takes you on a trip to a wonderful place, it's easy to get caught up in many feelings. One time while I was away, I looked at social media and saw what I was missing. Mark hadn't blocked me, and still used it mostly to share updates with his family and friends. When I saw a new post about him taking the kids on a vacation to New Zealand, I didn't know if I should feel sad or hurt. Most of the photos showed the kids having a great time. Mark never talked to me about it when I was home. The kids didn't say anything either. Matthew not saying anything bothered me the most. I also noticed that Emily was in many of the photos. That afternoon, Tom came back to our hotel room and found me in tears on the bed. He didn't ask me what was wrong. He just took off his shoes and came to me. He wrapped his arms around me, giving me quiet support. He took my phone and looked at what had upset me before softly touching my lips. "I think I should take some of the blame," he said. "You've been with me a lot lately. It feels like I'm already separated, and he's just seeing the kids when he can. Do you want to take a break from hanging out with me for a bit? Maybe we could just stay home and you could meet the kids? Are you really okay with that, Louise?" I looked into his eyes as he smiled at me. I ask because... He took a breath and gently touched my forehead. "I really care about you, Louise." This made me smile. We showed our feelings for each other on our first trip together. But I still love my wife, and I can't see a time when I would leave her. Meeting your kids would be... I'm not sure how I feel about that. I wouldn't want to give anyone false hope. When I got home a week later, I tried to be at home as much as I could while also spending time with Tom. Catching Mark was not easy since he always seemed to know my every move. But one evening, I finally found him at home by himself. "You took the kids to New Zealand," I said. "Why did you go without me?" "I wanted to give our kids a little vacation. They hadn't had one in a couple of years," he said. "Why didn't you include me?" "Because you were with your boyfriend then," he said, giving a slight shrug. "I would have changed my plans." He turned to meet my gaze. "I'm not going to act like everything is perfect just to make you happy, Louise. I wanted to take our kids on a trip. You're always busy traveling. And Emily just happened to join you? Emily is my closest friend. She has been there for me from the start of this situation you wanted. I invited her to keep me company while the kids enjoyed themselves." "What about Christmas? What about it? Do you have any plans? Will I be part of this?" "That's up to you, Louise." "Mark, please just talk to me." His eyes became hard as he stared at me, and I could feel the pressure in the air. I had never seen my husband so upset before that night. Sure, I might have bothered him about tiny things, but real anger? He had never shouted at me. We haven't had anything to say since the night you asked me for that and the next night when I felt I had to say yes. You have been very clear about how you feel about our marriage, Louise. I miss you, Mark. I want you to be with me. I can't remember the last time we had some time together. I can't remember the last time we slept in the same bed. And that's on you, Louise. I won't sleep near a husband who wants to be with other women. But you said it was okay. He looked at me and started to laugh, shaking his head. You still don't understand, do you? I never wanted this. I wanted my wife to be loyal to me. But no, you had to go out and find new thrills. By doing that, Louise, you gave up your rights about my place in our marriage. We either accepted an open marriage or saw you drift away from our promises. I would never have thought of cheating on you, Mark. Yes, you would have. You seemed very interested in seeing what else is out there, and I know you had someone in mind when you asked. Don't think I'm naive, Louise. But you're seeing other women too, Mark. Don't focus only on me. What's fair for one person should be fair for the other. I couldn't just stay home while you followed your own path. He moved closer, his feelings clear. I know your friend Janet has been influencing you. Have you talked to her recently? Her husband has finally reached his limit. She's been having fun while he stays home to take care of the kids. Did you know she even brought guys home while he was there? I was shocked. I hadn't talked to Janet in months, but I never thought she would ignore her husband's feelings like that. All my other friends had stopped reaching out, but I remembered times when they would talk about their adventures while their partners stayed at home. I looked down, feeling defeated. Mark seemed to understand everything, and I was sure he had predicted this from the beginning. I can't say for sure what they would have told you, Louise, he said. His voice had gone from angry to empty. But I can guess what it might have been, and I'd probably be correct. You listened to others, and by asking for what you did, you upset our marriage, our home, and everything that once made us close. Now we can't turn back. He moved closer again. Why, Louise? You've never told me why. Did I not treat you well? Did I make you sad? If you wanted to end our marriage, I just felt bored. That's not enough, Louise. Boredom isn't a good reason to say you want to leave. Please think of something better. I looked into his eyes, my vision hazy as tears began to fill mine. The truth was I still couldn't quite express what I felt, at least not without risking what was left of our marriage. I had enough time to understand that I had made a selfish choice. I had put him in a situation he wasn't comfortable with, and I took poor advice from friends who didn't have my marriage's best interests at heart. Janet and the girls were out enjoying themselves. They were meeting nice guys and having a great time, feeling light and happy. And I couldn't help but find that attractive. Every night when we went out, they filled my head with ideas about what life could be like if our marriage were different. I could meet other men, enjoy a drink, dance, and make new friends. Janet often shared stories about her exciting adventures. Annie would excitedly tell me about the joy of meeting someone new, even if just for a little while. My head was full of thoughts about all the different chances I could take. And what did they say about the husband who was supposed to manage it? I looked down again. It was time to be truthful with him. Janet said it was never meant to be a fair deal, I whispered. She said when given the opportunity, men would jump at it, thinking they would gain a lot, but it was the wives who would really be out looking for connections. I never wanted anyone else, Louise, he said with a heavy heart. Before that night, I was a happy husband, loving and loyal to my wife. I would have done almost anything to make her smile. But what you asked me showed that you didn't care about me as your partner and showed how you really felt about our life together. I let out a heavy sigh. We hadn't talked like this in a long time since we first talked about this situation, but I felt like this might be the breaking point for our marriage. I understood that things would never be the same again. His feelings for me had shifted. What should we do, Mark? I asked. We'll keep things as they are until the kids turn 18. Then we can make a choice, he replied. I understood what his choice might be, and I couldn't help but cry. I didn't expect him to wrap his arms around me, which made me even more emotional. I leaned into him, holding on tightly. I knew his feelings had changed, but deep down I think he still didn't want to see me sad. We'll spend Christmas together, Louise. he finally said. But I'm living my own life now. Our marriage is mostly finished. You should see that by now. You're trying to hold on to something that has faded away over the past year or more. And what if I gave up everything? You're not the same woman I married, and I'm really not the man you married. I don't want to lose you, Mark. You are my husband, and no matter what you think, I still love you. I felt him breathe out slowly, and to my relief, he didn't pull away. His hand still softly stroked my back, but he stayed quiet. Maybe, for the first time in a long time, he didn't want to say anything that would upset me. I already understood what was in his heart. He didn't need to say more. I could tell what he was thinking and what he would do next. I realized I probably couldn't stop him. I didn't feel anger toward him. He finally let me go and moved back, giving me room to dry my tears. When our eyes met, there wasn't much warmth there, but he seemed to get how I felt. "Would you like to have dinner?" he asked. I almost started crying again. It had been too long since we shared a meal alone. I smiled as we made a simple meal quickly. I was surprised by how skilled my husband had become in the kitchen. When we sat down to eat, the conversation felt a bit strange, and some subjects were clearly not to be touched. But after he had a couple of beers, we began to share memories from the past. "You know, I just realized I haven't asked where the kids are," I said at last. "Zara is out with her friends. Matthew is spending the night at a friend's house," he replied. "I was just having a quiet evening by myself." "Oh, that's all right, Louise. I believe we needed to talk tonight." "Does Zara not like me?" He shook his head. "No, she doesn't feel that way. She's very attached to her dad and doesn't like it when her mom is dating someone." "And how does she feel about her dad having a girlfriend?" I replied. He managed to smile a little at that. "Well, I think she feels a bit left out because, if not Emily, she got a lot of attention during the first few months." "Do you love Emily, Mark?" "You know I care for Emily. She's been my best friend for most of my life." "Are you together with her now?" I asked softly. "No. She's been there for me to help. We won't be together until we're divorced." I couldn't help but cry more as I wiped my cheeks. "Do you really mean that? A divorce, really? Are you truly happy in our marriage, Louise? This is the first time we've talked like this in over a year, and we haven't spent real time together in months." "I'd give anything to go back to how things used to be. But you can't turn back time, Louise. What's done is done." Then he shifted the conversation and asked me to join him for a drink in what he called his room. It was thoughtfully designed and very cozy, so it was no surprise that the kids enjoyed being there with him. We shared a bottle of juice, chatting about good memories from the past. It felt nicer than talking about today or what was coming next. As I leaned against him, he put his arm around me, and I laid my head on his chest. The next morning, when I woke up and felt a pair of arms around me, I opened my eyes to see my husband sound asleep. I noticed that I may have had a little too much to drink. I felt a bit let down when I saw that I wasn't by myself. The memory of a nice evening I had with my husband the night before stayed in my mind. Mark woke up and looked at me, surprised for a moment. Then a smile spread across his face. "Looks like we enjoyed some drinks last night. Though we're both still dressed, so I don't have any clues showing our closeness, Mark." Moving a bit closer, I asked, "Would you like to spend some time together? When did you last talk to someone?" "It's been over a week." He raised his eyebrows at this. "Not to say I haven't had some fun since I got back." When I noticed him shifting, I couldn't help but smile. "Looks like that still makes you happy." "I've always thought you were wonderful, Louise." "You're still a wonderful woman." "Do you really think so?" "Absolutely. I would never say anything untrue about that." I placed my hand on his chest and looked into his eyes. "Mark, I know you might not feel very strongly for me, but would you want to be with your wife? We haven't spent time together in over a year. I really miss being close to you." He sighed and held me closer, softly saying he was sorry. I told him not to apologize. I still remembered that part of our agreement. He had closed off a part of himself to me, and that part was no longer something he could share. "Thanks for telling me I'm still beautiful," I said softly. When it was time for work, I took a moment to appreciate him. He looked even more fit than I remembered as he went about in just his shorts. I got up and followed him, wanting to keep him in my view. He noticed and gave me a playful smile. Never stopped going to the gym, but I spent a lot of time there for a few months, he explained. You look really fit, Mark, I said, noticing him closely. It was funny to see him blush a bit. I mean, you always take care of yourself, but it's clear your friends are really lucky to have you. You know about that? I know you're not by yourself, Mark, and Zara has mentioned it more than once. Do you want me to talk to her? No, that's not needed. I saw why it mattered. He went to take a shower, then got dressed and had a quick bite to eat. Just as he was about to leave, I called out and asked if I could have a hug. He put down his bag and for the first time in more than a year, held me close. I hugged him tightly, not wanting to let go. In many ways, this felt like a goodbye. He gave me one last hug before he left, but deep down, I sensed that one day we might embrace for the final time before our marriage came to an end. I love you, Mark, I whispered, resting my head against his strong chest. I've always loved you. Not even for a moment did I stop. He didn't say anything back. I think he was trying not to hurt me so early in the morning. Instead, he leaned back a bit and gently stroked my cheek. His eyes were kind and warm, just like they had always been throughout our marriage. He gently touched my forehead, wished me a good day, and then left through the front door. I followed him to the entrance, watching as he got into his truck. I waved goodbye and he honked the horn after backing out, ready to drive off. Mark, you're now 18, my dear, I told my daughter, and Matthew is 16. I think it's time. Are you finally going to end things with her? You don't have to sound so happy about it, Zara. Dad, your marriage hasn't made you happy for a long time. You should find joy with someone who really cares about you. I'll need to tell Matthew. And when your mom is back, I'll talk to her and show her the papers. I want us to do it together, so it goes through faster without too many problems. Your mom knows I want a divorce, so I hope this isn't too shocking for you. Did you talk to Emily? Yes. She wanted to hold off until we were divorced, but we've waited long enough to be together. I'll talk with your mom about where we'll live and everything else. At least, Louise hadn't lied to our son. Since she began dating Tom, after hearing his name from our son, she would join him on his trips. But mostly she spent time at home when she wasn't away. We had Christmas together, and it felt like a nice reminder of happy times we used to share. I told my family to be nice, and her family seemed to feel a bit sorry for me. That night we spent together, when we talked more than we had in over a year, really helped change how I felt about her. I would even say we were friends again, but it wasn't the same as before. We could be in the same room and talk easily. I could tell she still cared about me and hoped I might start to feel something for her again. Even though I felt better than I had in the past months, I knew I couldn't love her the way I used to. A few nights later, she came home, and I decided to give her some time to relax. I didn't want to be harsh and throw divorce papers at her the moment she walked in. The irritation I had felt toward her in those early days had faded away. Making friends of my own helped me see things from her side, even if it was just a little bit. Emily was usually the one who kept me steady. One evening, we gathered around the table for dinner as a family. I felt happy that Zara was being nice to her mom. I suspected it was because she knew something important was about to happen, but she seemed sincere. Matthew, on the other hand, had always loved his mother, even though I had also told him to be careful about what was ahead. He was sad, but he knew it was time for both his mom and me to move forward. When I was alone with Louise, I asked her to stay at the table while I got the papers. After I sat down, I put them in front of her. She started to cry right away, knowing what they were without even looking. I'm sorry, Louise, but I can't take back what I did. Maybe the only thing that could have been different was to wait another year. But I stayed here because I wanted to be here for the kids. Once I let go of the bad feelings and focused on my own life, I didn't mind sharing the house with you. Neither of us brought anyone else home to interrupt the quiet we once had, and we've respected each other's space. I took her hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. Please look over the papers, and if you're okay with it, we can submit it together. Zara is now 18 and seen as an adult. Matthew is 16, and I think it would be best for him to stay here at home until he turns 18. And what do we do now? That's for you to decide, Louise. I took a deep breath, held her hand, and looked into her eyes when I said, I'm planning to be with Emily, After the divorce, I want to ask her to marry me. I might also move in with her. Regarding this house, you can either buy my share or we can put it up for sale. Are you planning to stay here? I don't have any plans to leave right now, Louise. I'm not sure what you'll decide after this, but our kids are grown up now. I think it's time for both of us to start new journeys in our lives. I never wanted this, Mark, she said quietly, using her free hand to wipe her tears. I understand that, Louise. I know you just wanted things to stay the same for a little longer. But things are different now. I've already told the other women in my life that I'm going to divorce you and be with the woman I love. I knew these words would be hard for her to hear, and I could see how they affected her as Louise started to cry a bit more. I wasn't being cruel. I held her hand, and she squeezed it tightly. If this were a year ago, Louise, I might have said things that would have hurt you even more. I don't want to do that now. I hope we can finish our marriage on friendly terms if that's possible. I guess she will come out on top in the end, she said quietly. Emily told me to be careful about hurting you. She always cares about what's best for me, and I hope you know I've tried to do the same when it comes to some of her past partners. Can we still be friends, Mark? We're friends now, right? That made her look at me and smile. We've become much closer in the last few months, more than we were for the whole year after that request. Almost 2 years have gone by. Our bond has changed, and it will never be the same again. But we have 2 kids together, and that will always keep us connected. When will you leave the house? I can pick a date with Emily if you want me to move out. If you'd like me to stay, I can do that, but you need to understand that Emily will come over and I won't keep our friendship a secret anymore. I'm not sure I can deal with that, Louise said softly. Then I'll leave, Louise. That's all right. We've already discussed it, and she's thrilled about having me with her all the time. She really cares for you, doesn't she? I haven't regretted our relationship at all until that night, Louise. I fell in love with you, and marrying you was the happiest day of my life. The birth of our 2 kids is just as important to me. I still don't regret anything. I loved you sincerely for so long, and I lost it all. Take a look at the paperwork. I'll send it back after you sign it. I'll talk to Emily and pick a date for me to move out. As she stood up, I could feel how heavy everything was between us. I hugged her softly, sensing her sadness in my own heart. I knew she wanted things to be different, wishing to mend what we once shared. But the talks about separating still hung in the air. Later that evening, I called Emily to tell her I had given the papers to Louise. She hid her happiness well and asked when I would be moving in with her. I reminded myself that I would be leaving my home, which Louise might sell when Matthew got older. To my surprise, the house didn't feel as heavy as I thought it would. In fact, I felt a wave of relief as I made my choice. Louise was understandably sad, but kept a strong face. Zara had said she heard Louise talking to Tom about needing some time to think things over. Louise left the day I moved out, taking Matthew to her parents' house, who knew about what was happening between us. After I signed the papers, I only had to wait for the divorce to be official. Emily came by while I was packing, which didn't take long since I didn't have much to move. When she got there, I welcomed her with a smile, and we shared a moment that showed how our bond was getting stronger. After putting boxes and a few suitcases in my truck, I noticed that Emily's car was packed with smaller boxes. She wanted our new place to show that we were starting a life together. I won't pretend it was easy to leave my house for the last time. I had been married for more than 20 years, but we didn't mark that anniversary, of course. It didn't seem necessary since we both understood how things were between us. Still, that house had been a warm and welcoming home for most of its time. There were so many happy memories. Before I left, I wrote Louise a short letter. I wanted it to bring her joy. I felt no anger or sadness anymore. I was ready to start a new chapter in my life, and it was time for Louise to do the same. When I got to my new home, we brought in many of our things and put them in one of the extra bedrooms. Louise made sure most of my clothes were placed in what was now our bedroom. Once we were done, she grabbed my hand and pulled me into the living room where we had a sweet moment together. "I went for some tests, Mark," she said softly. "I'm still able to have kids." I leaned back, a smile coming to my face. "I know we've only talked about it a little, and I know you already have 2 grown children. We can talk about it for sure. She smiled at me, and I hugged her close, enjoying the warmth between us. I love you, Mark, she said gently, stroking my cheek. I've grown really fond of you over the last few months. Emily, you've been my closest friend for most of my life. I feel the same way now. When was the last time you were with someone? It's been a few months, Emily. I always take care of my health, but I knew you'd want to know, so I got tested after my last meeting with Cindy. I got a positive health check. That's great to hear. When was the last time you were with someone? I asked, seeing she seemed a bit shy and a little embarrassed. Has it been a while? I've just been waiting for you to begin the divorce, Mark. I didn't think I could wait until everything was settled. That night she made us dinner, and we sat at the small table with candles, enjoying a bottle of wine. We were both surprised at how easily we talked. There was no moving to the living room or the backyard afterward. We loaded the dishwasher and turned it on. Then, Emily took my hand and guided me to her room. Emily was very different from my wife. She was shorter and slimmer. She had her own special charm that drew me in. We shared looks that showed we understood each other well and cared for one another. At that moment, I felt a strong bond between us, more powerful than anything I had felt before. We enjoyed the warmth of the evening, appreciating our closeness and the feelings that had grown between us, making this a night to remember. Sure, there had been close moments before, but I hadn't truly cared for any of them. This felt different. Emily wrapped her legs around me and put her hands on my back as we moved together. Our lips touched, and we both sighed gently. When the moment felt right, I rested my head next to hers. She held me close, and I could hear her quietly speaking to herself. I understood that this was an important moment for her. I love you, I said softly in her ear, and she responded with a sweet kiss on my cheek. 2 months later, after our divorce was finalized and I had the last papers, I asked Emily to marry me after we enjoyed a lovely dinner by the harbor. She jumped into my arms as soon as I put the engagement ring on her finger. When we got home, my fiancé made sure to thank me for the joy I had given her. I knew I had to tell the kids, of course. Zara was really happy because she loved spending time with Emily. Matthew was feeling good too, but I knew him well. Deep down, I think he always hoped that his parents would get back together one day. I didn't mention this to Louise because, to be honest, we were keeping some space between us after I moved out during the divorce. We had managed everything without needing to meet face to face. Emily preferred a small wedding. All she wished for was a wedding ring on her finger, a chance to wear a beautiful dress, and to share the promises that would make us married. My second wedding was a small, private event 6 months after I asked her to marry me. We invited only our close family and friends. Both of my kids came, and I was a bit surprised that Matthew said yes to the invitation. I thought he might want to support his mother. I didn't invite Louise because I knew it would be too hard for her. At this point, we were speaking again and inviting Emily over to our house more than once. Emily got along well with Louise. I wasn't sure how Louise felt about it, but after one visit, Emily mentioned that my ex-wife seemed to have many regrets. On the day we got married, Emily was 5 months pregnant. She looked so beautiful and was excited to become a mother. I was also looking forward to being a father again. Epilogue. Louise Mark found his happiness the day he married Emily. I wasn't invited to the event, and honestly, even if I had been, I might not have gone. I was glad for both of them. After all that had happened, it made me happy to see my ex-husband in a good place, and I knew Emily had been looking forward to this. I came across some pictures online, and she looked lovely. I have to say that I felt a bit angry for a short time after he moved out. But I couldn't stay mad for long, especially after she invited me over, and we talked about everything that happened. It was supposed to be my perfect life. The day I married Mark was the happiest day of my life, just like when our kids were born. I wish I had never made that request, and I really wish I hadn't gone through with it the next day. I knew that day my husband stopped loving me and trusting me. It marked the beginning of everything falling apart. After my divorce, my relationship with Tom changed. I cared about him, but I understood he would never leave his wife, something he had said to me more than once. Knowing I had to move forward, he asked me over for dinner one night, and I shared my feelings with him. He knew why I felt this way. Even though he was sad, He understood that relationships like ours sometimes come to an end. I didn't hold him responsible for what happened. It was all on me. So I was alone in a big house with just my son. Zara moved out soon after her dad did. She decided to live in an apartment with some friends while she went to college. I could tell she was relieved about our divorce, even if she didn't say much about it. Still, she held me responsible for what went wrong. I was grateful that she still spoke to me and came over every other weekend. I understood it would take time for us to heal our relationship. As I thought about finding love again, I realized there weren't many men like Mark, and to be truthful, not many like Tom either. I had ended a great marriage with Mark. Tom was a nice and caring man, but the little hope I had that he would want to be with me forever was not going to happen. I started going on dates now and then. Some men seemed real, but most were not worth my time. Many had come from painful divorces. I always told the truth about why I had divorced, but I often received unkind names in return. Some people thought I would quickly get close to them. A few years passed until I met someone I believed was a good man. His name was John, and he was a few years older than me. He had a good job and his own apartment. He seemed to like me a lot. We dated for a few weeks, and then I decided it was time to make our relationship closer. He was kind and caring, making sure our time together was nice, but I didn't feel anything like what I had with Tom. There was no spark like I had felt with Mark. I thought this was how my life would be from now on. The person I loved the most was gone. Now, I just wanted to find a decent man to share my life with as I grew older, but even that turned out to be a little too hopeful. It was on Christmas Day that I discovered the truth. As I went to his apartment, I noticed he wasn't there, even though we had talked about meeting up for weeks. I searched around his place to find clues about where he might be. I found some documents, including a detailed bill, that showed another address. I was puzzled, but decided to take it with me and drive over to that location. The house was in a quiet neighborhood. When I arrived and parked by the street, I saw his car in the driveway along with another car I didn't know. My stomach felt tight as I stepped out of the car and walked toward the front door. I rang the bell and waited a moment until the door opened. A woman I didn't know smiled at me. "Hello, how can I help you?" she asked. "I'm looking for John." "And who are you?" she replied. "I won't share my name, but I think you're his wife." "Yes, I am," she said. "Well, that means I am someone who knows him well. I'm really sorry. I didn't know you were here." "You didn't know he was married?" She looked at me, surprise on her face. "Believe me, I've been through something like this before, and it was not good. John never told me he was married." I raised my left hand. "He didn't wear a ring." "He stopped wearing it a long time ago. He said it was because of his job." I could feel her frustration. "Please tell me what you know." "Who is it, dear?" his voice called out from deeper in the house. "Just someone trying to find a street, love. I'll be there in a moment." I shared what I could, especially the things that only I would know if I had been close to him. I talked about the apartment he had and our time together. I could see her thinking about the information, and soon she let out a deep breath. "I can't thank you enough for this, whoever you are." John suddenly stood next to her, and I heard him softly say, "Oh no." "You're not being honest, John. If I had known you were married, I would never have gotten into this," I said firmly. "Diane." His wife spoke as I looked into her eyes again. "I'm really sorry, Diane. I didn't know." I turned back to John. "You should have been honest about everything. I know my own past, and I know the mistakes I've made. This isn't fair." Getting back into my car, I didn't want to focus on what had just happened. I felt bad for Diane. I could only hope they didn't have kids, or if they did, that they were old enough to understand the situation. I knew he would not tell the truth about me, but I also understood things about him that we should have talked about honestly. As I drove without a clear direction, I didn't know where to go. The kids were with Emily, Mark, and their families. I didn't want to interrupt, even though they had both said I could come by any time. I parked outside the house I had kept after my divorce, but I couldn't bring myself to go inside and spend Christmas Day all by myself. With a sigh, I put the car in drive and headed across the city to my ex-husband's new home. When I arrived, I got out of the car, walked to the door, and knocked. Mark opened the door quickly. When he saw me, he stepped aside and hugged me tight as I cried. "I keep making mistakes," I said, my voice shaky against his shirt. Then, to my surprise, I felt another person wrap their arms around me. "Stay with us," Emily said softly. "You're still part of our family, Louise. Right, Mark? You've always been welcome here, Louise. Our kids are here too, and you can spend time with our daughter. We can call you Auntie Louise." I relaxed and gazed at his comforting smile. He hadn't changed much in the 5 years since we split up, and he seemed as joyful now as he was in our earlier years together. "Do you really think it's all right?" Both of them took one of my hands. "We believe it's a good idea," Mark said. "It's Christmas, a time for family, a time to be grateful. But it's also a time to let go of the past. I have already moved on, Louise. I think it's time for you to forgive yourself." My daughter smiled and gave me a hug while I held my grandchild in my arms. Zara had welcomed the little one into the family earlier this year. Mark's parents were warm and friendly, just like always. They introduced me to Emily's parents, who were nice and welcoming. Matthew hugged me tightly for what felt like forever. My son has grown into a strong young man. Spending a whole day with such a loving family finally brought a smile to my face. Zara, her husband, and their child left in the afternoon. Shortly after, Matthew left as well, hoping to enjoy some time with his girlfriend. Both of our parents had already gone, so I was left with Mark, Emily, and their 3-year-old daughter. As we drank our glasses of wine, I told them what had happened. They were kind and understanding. Mark said he would help if I needed it, which made me smile. I couldn't stay with them all night. When I got up to leave, Emily was the first to say I could stay with them. "I'm going to sell the house," I told them. "It's too big for me now. I'm looking for an apartment or something smaller." "Please stay tonight, Louise," Mark said. "We've been there for each other during hard times. Now that we're friends, you don't have to go." "Are you sure?" I saw them look at each other and smile. "Go get your things, Louise. You will always have a home here," Emily said. As I took a nice long shower, I stood in the doorway and watched Mark read a story to their daughter. I had to hold back my feelings, remembering how he used to do the same for our daughter many years ago. I walked to the guest room that Emily had hurriedly set up for me. Mark gave me a warm hug, and then Emily hugged me too. "I hope we can become good friends," she said gently. "If it means I can see him more," I replied. "You still care about him?" Her question made me nod, and I had to hold back tears. "I'm so sorry, Louise. I really mean that." "I'm sorry, too," I said back. I heard the door to their bedroom close as I shut the door to mine. As I climbed into bed, I felt lonely, but being alone was better than being with Mark. I started thinking about my life and where it was going. Maybe I should stop dating and concentrate on my job and spending time with my grandkids. Emily was kind and happy in her relationship. I didn't see her as a rival. Perhaps I could just enjoy being friends with her. Tomorrow would come, and I would find a way to sort things out in time. Hey, audience! If you liked this video and want to keep up with more thrilling stories, make sure to subscribe to Prince Cheating Tales and hit the notification bell. You don't want to miss out on our upcoming adventures. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next wonderful story.